For more reactions concerning that Supreme Court judgment in Imo, let's head to Abuja for that.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us Mr. Sani Umar, who is the spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, a member of the PDP. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, Marvin.
We also have with us Sanusi Musa, who is a member of the APC and also a legal practitioner. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily as well.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Well, gentlemen, you have both seen the reaction from the PDP. First of all, saw a statement released by the PDP in the aftermath of the Supreme Court judgment. Then later on, we saw yesterday's briefing by the national chairman of the PDP, which is Secondus. And then we saw a reaction from the Minister of State for Labour and Productivity, Festus Keyamo, SAN, and you heard him there. Let me start with you. What do you make of this call by the PDP, People's Democratic Party, that the Supreme Court verdict must be reversed? Some people are wondering, what exactly is the PDP talking about?
Well, we are saying that justice was not adequately served. That the Supreme Court, in the case of Imo, decided to play to the gallery. We believe that that judgment was not, a judicial and legal judgment that should come from the apex court of the land. That judgment, it is fraught. It has negated the judgments that the Supreme Court have given in similar matters, where the Supreme Court insisted that before any addition to results from polling units, so subtraction or addition, in those polling units, the presiding officers must give evidence in court. And this matter has affected about 388 polling units, and there is no record in the judgment where presiding officers were said to have given evidence. In fact, the argument is that a policeman was the one who brought the documents to court and dumped them in court. Now, but all other, the tribunal, the appeal courts, have mentioned these things, that you cannot come and dump, the court is not a dumping ground, you can't come and dump these things. But the Supreme Court found merit in it and then decided to add it.
Not only did the Supreme Court find merit in it, all 7 justices of the Supreme Court found merit in it. It was a unanimous judgment. Doesn't that say something?
No, it does not say anything. One, if you take a holistic look at all the 7 justices that found merit in it, you will discover that the selection was deliberate. One, even the person who delivered the judgment, our husband is a member of the APC. Mr. Kekere Ekun is a member of the APC. Now, the Chief Justice was appointed by the government after removing Justice, the former Chief Justice, Walter Onogen. The Justice Oguta was part of the judgment. He just recently came back from EFCC and what have you investigation. One other justice who has never even appeared.
What has that got to do with anything if he just came back from EFCC?
Of course, he has been threatened. He just resumed. He was supposed to be fired because there were so many issues of corruption. DSS took him, everything. But he was able to survive, and then he wanted to play to the system, to switch the system. Now, coming back to the issue, there is also a justice who has never been appeared, and he's about to retire.
Why didn't Why didn't the PDP raise any objections before this judgment was delivered?
In fact, we have been raising objections not only on this, on several issues, and they have not been hearing us.
No, what I'm saying is you did not raise any objections about the composition of the panel.
We don't have. It is not within our competence. We are not the only political party that will now come and say,
no, because I remember very clearly that was the issue also raised against Justice Bolkachua, who was the president of the Court of Appeal, and based on the complaint of the PDP, she had to recuse herself.
No, she delivered a judgment that she is entitled to be in that panel.
Indeed, but she recused herself.
No, she did that on moral grounds and not
Indeed.
on the basis of law.
The point I'm making is this, that you raised objection about her husband being a member of the APC, and she did say that indeed she's entitled to be a member of the panel, but she still recused herself. She did not sit on any of the appeals, did she?
She did that voluntarily.
The point I'm making is this. It was based on the objections that you raised.
No. If it was based on the objection, she would not have ruled in our favor, in her own favor. She ruled in her favor.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me go to Mr. Sanusi Musa right now. You have seen some of the grounds upon which the judgment have been criticized. Some people say that this is voodoo. I mean, this cannot stand. It cannot stand as a standard in terms of the judgment that has been delivered. What's your reading of it?
Let me say that, first of all, let me say I align myself with the views expressed by the learned essay and the Honorable Minister of State Labour. And secondly, all the people talking about that are talking from the point of ignorance.
Ignorance?
Yes.
Why?
What the Supreme Court did is not something new. It is something that has been decided since 1983 in the case of Ajashin Amoboriowo. What is it? Let's go back to the state of pleadings at the tribunal. The pleadings, the case of the APC is simple. That election was conducted in about 3,752 polling units or thereabout. Election results were collected from 2,883 polling units. Election result of 388 polling units were excluded. Election result of 252 polling units were cancelled. And the result excluded from 388 polling units, APC was leading in those polling units. Another thing that people are not talking about is that even the result collated where Emeka Ihedioha was announced as the winner of the election, there was an inflation of the vote. If you calculated, APC calculated, said what you ought to have had is about 216,000 votes, not 257 or 70 something thousand votes thereabout. These are the issues. Okay. In election where a petitioner is alleging exclusion, what is required of him is for him to now bring those results that he has claimed to have been excluded. That is what APC did. It brought those results because these were results that where election was conducted in those polling units, votes counted, scores were recorded, they were brought but they were rejected to be included in the final result, and they were not cancelled. What the law requires APC, what the law requires somebody who is alleging that is to show the existence of those results. That was what decided far back in 1983 in the case of Ajashin Amoboriowo. APC did that. Not only that, APC petitioner applied for the chart of the distribution of sensitive materials by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
You have heard.
No, let me say, these are very important issues.
You have to make your point quickly.
Okay, these are very important issues. That was tendered before the court. And all the results brought by the APC, if you compare them with the chart, the number of the result sheet distributed to all those polling units tallied with this. That was what happened. What was the defense of the PDP and the INEC? That those results were forged. Same was decided in the same case. Because since now PDP is alleging the forgery, it has a duty by the provision of Section 135 of the Evidence Act to prove that beyond reasonable doubt. Not only that, when you check paragraph 12 sub 2 of the Electoral Act and paragraph 15 of the first schedule to the Electoral Act, the PDP and INEC had a duty to now tabulate all the results that they want to, by paragraph 12, to show that, yes, we are disputing these figures, and this is how we are going to show that those figures do not exist. They have to go further and state out the correct figures they allege to have That they have not done. All they said these figures were forged. Then now they are done alleging forgery. They have to go and bring it. And the issue of saying whether a police did not dump that result. That was not the decision of the court. Please. Result, APC tendered its own result, and also it is a decision of the court that a result given to the police, because by the provision of section, I think 56 or 61 of the Electoral Act, it is required that after the election was conducted, in each polling unit where a police officer is there, a copy would be given to him. So, and in the case, APC, PDP, INEC was put on notice to produce the result in its own hand. It refused to. Of course, in Buhari and Obasanjo, the court said that you cannot now accuse them of withholding evidence if you have another way of bringing those results. That was why police were subpoenaed, and police brought those results to the court. So how will you now say that, Supreme Court did something that, is contrary to the law? That is purely ignorance of the law, purely not understanding what are the basics of the law, purely not understanding what is really the case at hand in this issue. The issue at hand is issue of exclusion of result. And we have
no matter how those results were gotten. Because, let me read a portion. Only yesterday, a popular columnist in This Day newspaper, he's also the chairman of This Day editorial board. I don't know if you saw his article, Olusegun Adeniyi, writing about the arithmetic of the Supreme Court on Imo elections. He said this: for a long time in our country, when many politicians go for elections, part of the preparation has always been the plot to use the tribunal to upturn the verdict of the people in the event that the results do not go their way. Whatever may therefore be the merit of election tribunals, it should worry critical stakeholders that judges are replacing the electorate to determine who wins the election. That has encouraged all manner of electoral petitions. According to INEC, over 1,689 cases were filed in different courts in connection. Anyway, the point he was trying to make is that people are worried that politicians might even get more desperate. I mean, that they believe that that is the precedent that this Supreme Court ruling has set. Politicians might get a little more desperate, concoct results however it is that they will concoct them, regardless of how it is that they get them, and take them to the take them to the courts. And eventually they believe that given the precedence of this judgment, that judgment will be given to them in their favor. After all they have to do is influence presiding officers at the polling units to authenticate those results, knowing that from what we now understand, the people at the collation centers, even though they are more senior INEC officials, have no power to set aside those particular results, no matter how spurious they may look. Are you not worried about the basis?
I think I must sympathize with Olusegun Adeniyi. Of course, I understand because Ihedioha is his personal friend, so
yeah,
he must be that. Yes, so he must write that. But where was he when Supreme Court decided to take away the mandate of the APC and give it to the PDP? He did not write on that.
The mandate of the APC? When?
Yes, in Zamfara State. In Zamfara State, the people of Zamfara State overwhelmingly voted for APC with more than 800,000 votes. PDP did not even have the requirement, but the Supreme Court, in its wisdom, said that APC had no candidate. Of course, we would have expected a new election to be conducted so that the people can decide who will rule them. But the Supreme Court said no. The doctrine of wasted vote now applied. So all the votes that were cast for the PDP, APC were waste. More than 800,000 votes were said to be wasted vote by the Supreme Court. That was how PDP got it. Where was he? He didn't say anything about that. Is it now that he will say this? Where was he when, as far back as 2016, when the same Supreme Court decided of the case of Karifi in Kano State, when APC won the State House of Assembly, and it said that as far as the law is concerned, APC had no candidate at the election, despite the fact that the people of the state constituency voted for the APC. The seat was given to PDP. Where was he? Where was he when...
I have to interrupt you. Let me bring it here to Mr. Umar. Some people are saying that it is all well and good for people to fault, to take a critical look at the Supreme Court judgment, and, you know, they can pick holes wherever it is they want to pick holes. However, to drag the Supreme Court in the manner that the PDP is doing, that it raises serious questions about their role as Democrats. What do you say to that? So, for instance, you're saying that this judgment must be reversed. Some people will say they've never heard of a Supreme Court judgment being reversed before.
No, the Supreme Court can reverse itself. They have done it before. I do not have the decided cases here, but I know, I have read somewhere where the Supreme Court has reversed itself. And several...
With the same facts in front of it, not with new facts being brought before it.
You see, the law, that's why I want to come in and clearly express so many areas my colleague has raised, so that Nigerians will understand the basis upon which all these things, our complaints and things are going on. He has cited cases, for instance, of Akin Omoborio and Ajasin. The circumstance and the law at that time and now are not the same. The Electoral Act at that time is not the same. The Constitution of 1979 was what was used. We are now using the Constitution of 1999. The Electoral Act, which had given room for so many, and INEC guidelines are not the same.
In law, the principle remains the same.
It is not about the principle. It is about the law that comes in effect at the time. If, for instance, there is a judgment which relies on something in 1979, and the law now has changed in 1999, you can't use that as a precedent to argue.
So the lawyers, they didn't make that point?
No, that is not the issue. I'm only trying to say that when you are trying to make a point, you are trying to put forward your argument. The argument should be based on something. Now, he has also cited the Zamfara case. Now, the Zamfara case was not a case that involved the PDP. The PDP was not even a party to the case. The case was an internal party matter, which we went up to the Supreme Court. Now, it is natural that if the Supreme Court says you are disqualified or you are not eligible to stand, then somebody else who came second will have to stand, and the PDP came second. So these are entirely two different issues. Here,
but you benefited from it. Whether or not, I mean, it might have been a party fight in itself, but at the end of the day, you were the ultimate beneficiary. If indeed the Supreme Court is rigged or is, let me read, I'm trying to find the statement of the PDP chairman. It says it's an annex, yes, the apex court, I'm trying to find that particular statement now. It says, according to him, the Supreme Court allegedly has now been annexed to execute alleged ignoble agenda of the All Progressives, Congress-led federal government against the Nigerian people. I mean, you believe that the Supreme Court is...
Are you looking at the action or the benefits?
I'm assuming that is the case, and they are aware. I mean, you say that they have been annexed to the federal government, to the executive arm of the federal government. Wouldn't they be looking at the benefit? Haven't they... Isn't that what they'll be looking at? If they know that it's going to benefit the PDP, not the APC.
You see, the argument you are giving is,
yes,
if the PDP had not been in second position in Zamfara, it could not have benefited. It could not have been the benefit of that. So the issue is not whether we benefited. It is our effort that made us to benefit.
The issue I'm looking at right now are the words of the chairman.
You are looking at the words of the chairman. The chairman is saying, yes, in this, that from all indication, if I can rephrase it or paraphrase what he has said, from all indication, the Supreme Court is now, attending to the whims and caprices of the executive, and that the APC government is now directing the Supreme Court on what to do and what not to do.
So the point I'm making is, if the Supreme Court knew that the APC was not going to benefit from this in Zamfara and it was not going to benefit in Rivers, would they have given the judgment?
Well, there must be judgment. Whether the PDP is going to benefit or is not going to benefit. The issue is the Zamfara case in the lower court. The lower court actually gave those people who were fighting the governor the judgment. And don't forget, INEC also was part of it, because INEC said they have they have the timeline for submission has passed, and so they don't have candidates. And when those people argued, they followed. They are people. So there must be a judgment, whether favorably or unfavorably. There must be a judgment. If somebody has already taken the matter to court. So there must be. Here, we are talking about how it affects us. The other one, it affected us by the judgment, not by our own arguments in court. We didn't go to the court to argue, to say, okay, we are the ones who are entitled to it. We are supposed to be given this seat. We just benefited because of their own inefficiency. And all the Court of Appeal, the Tribunal, Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court, all were in agreement.
Let me quickly take Mr. Sanusi on this one. What do you make of those who say that now the total tally of votes as tabulated by the Supreme Court, is more than the number of accredited voters? Doesn't that raise a problem?
That is also another ignorance. This is an INEC that has excluded 388 polling units. So it is from those of us who have had the opportunity of participating in election process at the polling unit level. It is on the from EC8 forms, from EC8A form that what is recorded there, you have the record of the total vote cast, the total accredited voters, the rejected vote, and the scores of each candidate. So it is when you compute everything together that you'll be able to arrive at the number of accredited voters. You get the accredited voters from the voters register. And the voter, when it is ticked, it is there at the time of counting the result. The presiding officers will count what is there and record it in the form EC8A. So it is what is collated from there that will be imputed as the total of the accredited voters. So if you have excluded 388 polling units, how could you have arrived at the right figure of accredited voters?
What do you say to those who say the results were only tallied for Senator Hope Uzodinma? They weren't tallied for the rest of those who contested in the elections?
That's not true, because up to now, this judgment is not out. But go and look at the pleadings of the parties. You don't go to court without stating out the figures of the vote of each of the candidates that participated in the election. And that was what APC did. Each of the parties that participated in the election, his figures were pleaded explicitly and stated there. And that is where the pleading showed that there was an inflation of about 57,000 votes to the PDP. And now, they have not disputed that fact.
What do you say to those, sir, who believe that you're just trying to intimidate or browbeat the Supreme Court ahead of the other election, the verdicts that were delivered on other election petition tribunals?
No. You see, we have always, raised objections. We have always raised issues with the way the Supreme Court has been handling our matters. We have raised issue with the Oshun case. We are still on it. We have been talking about it, that the Supreme Court has not been fair to us in Oshun. So it is not an issue that we just woke up one day to say, no, we don't agree with the Supreme Court. No, at the beginning of these things, we felt that the Supreme Court was trying to be, to maintain status quo ante. So they were allowing things to go, because we had serious cases, for instance, in Kaduna State. There was serious case in Katsina State, where the chairman of the tribunal was bribed, and she had to return the bribe money to the DSS, who issued her a receipt for $193,700. She gave the minority judgment, but all those things were jettisoned. They were not issues that were even considered. So when you look at these things, you begin to wonder whether, well, perhaps the Supreme Court was trying to do was to maintain status quo ante. But now
we have to go now.
We have begun to see it from the perspective that the Supreme Court is actually trying to subvert the will of the people.
Well, that's where we'll have to leave it. Sadly, we're totally out of time. We know that reactions will continue to follow the Supreme Court verdict. We will see how that goes in coming days. But we have to thank both of you for coming on Sunrise Daily. Sani Umar is spokesperson, PDP Presidential Campaign Council, and Sanusi Musa is a member of the APC.